Okay, we did it. We're live. It's actually a good time in the afternoon for a conversation because, well, it's the end of the day. I think we're kind of winding down. This is one of the, I don't know, I find these conversations more exciting because I don't know, I need coffee. It's the end of the day. I need coffee. I'm kind of like in that dip and I need something exciting. That's why I like these conversations. My mind is on the downward slope towards the end of the day. And I always enjoy these conversations right at that time, as opposed to the wiry, early waning moments of the early morning when,
the fog is still thick.
Yeah, your day is a blank canvas.
Yeah. No, I get you. I agree. It's kind of a nice bonus to the end of my day.
Oh, so you're in Bernenville, in Kansas. You've got the good stuff. We've talked about this before. I know why you never visit me here in California. It's because we don't have anything to offer. There's no food here of any quality here. And there's no.
They have plenty of food in San Fran, just not the barbecue.
No barbecue. Oh, I'm so.
Yeah.
You can't see it because I live in this blue void these days. But there's actually a bit of a sun. You can see the sun. You get
that's kind of strange.
I got a little sunburn. Yeah, we don't. Yeah. You don't. This doesn't happen in San Francisco. We had
that's very strange.
Super. Don't be jealous. I mean, I know you have actual sun. Like I can see the blue skies behind you above your window blinds. But oh well. What for the audience, what's your name? What do you do? Well,
my name is Rob Winch, and I'm the project lead for Spring Security. I've been doing that for a few years now. Probably over 10.
15.
Yeah, 15. 14. Yeah, maybe 15. I don't know. It's been a while.
Wait. When's your anniversary? I'm going to be 15 on.
Let's see. I don't think it's
August.
15. Let's see. I started in 2012 officially.
13, which is still crazy.
Yeah. So 2012 officially, but like many of us, I was a committer beforehand. So I'm not sure actually when I started that. Have to dig through some emails if they still exist.
You're one of the few engineers I can point to whose contributions involve my experience of Spring Security, and it's not just Spring Boot. It's you and the team. My experience of Spring Security has been fewer lines of code. I mean, I do more, but with fewer lines of code. Like most projects already had a very concise DSL, and they've added features to it, so you have more code that corresponds to those new features. You've added features, but also the amount of the stanzas of code required to do a thing in Spring Security has gone from that to nary a thing at all in some cases.
Yeah, no, I really like it. We've definitely had some cleanup, and one of the things that I think is pretty fun is to think about why the Java DSL has evolved. And we used to have these stanzas that ended in and the reason for that was because we wanted to be able to make it kind of similar to the XML based code so people could easily transition at the time.
Right.
But also because it was pre-Java 8. Isn't that fun?
That's a thing.
Pre-Java 8 in Spring at least. And so there were no lambdas. Mm-hmm. And now we've had for a while the option of using lambdas, but we've semi-recently ditched the option for not using lambdas. So that's kind of nice.
But even there, I mean, you onboarded, you became the lead when it was very much expected you were probably using XML. So it's not just.
I started before there was Java config in Spring Security. Yeah.
Right. So the improvement from what you just described is palpable. It's real, but that's the most recent migration and diminution of the code. Well done, sir. Just a huge fan.
Oh, thank you.
I was just, you and I were talking 20 minutes ago, and then we agreed we'd do this recording, and then I went off and I did, including a monologue. I had a whole introduction, speaking extemporaneously perhaps, and somewhat scripted about the new JMS client in Spring Framework 7 and Spring Boot 4.0. And I was gone for 15 minutes, right? I recorded the whole video. It's done.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Between when you and I agreed we'd do this and when I finally got back to you with this link. And the reason I was able to do it in 15 minutes is because JMS client, it's a well-known, the JMS template's a well-known commodity. JMS is a well-known commodity. The JMS client is just a really nice integration of this new pattern, this new idiom, the client idiom that you see so pervasive in the Spring ecosystem. So I didn't really have to linger all that much on it. But I was thinking about I couldn't do that for the security stuff. I know we can't do that for the security stuff. You and I are doing a talk at Spring 1. And if they have a Spring 2, we'll do that one as well. But it's Spring 1, we're doing a talk there. It's a full, 45-minute, hour, whatever. And
so hold on. I got to back up here. Spring 1, Spring 2, which is better? Because 1 is like number 1, but 2 is like V2, so it's improved.
Oh God, there's no answer to that. Oh God.
Important questions. Okay, sorry.
Recursion. Ask the AI and see if it's Stack Overflows. Well, anyway, my point is we're doing that. It's a whole thing, and our problem is not can we fill the time. It's more can we fit everything we want to fit.
Oh, and, yeah. Well, I'm certain we won't, but the good news is we'll be back. We'll be back. Yeah.
So excited. Spring 1. I hope everybody's registered. That's going to be in Vegas in less than a month. Well, it'll be wrapping up 30 days hence, right? It'll be last day on the 28th, something like that. So
I'm super excited.
Me too. I miss.
Is this our first Spring 1 presenting together?
We did it last year, silly.
Oh yes, we did. I think last year was our first year. It's all a blur. We presented before many a times, but
right.
Spring 1, considering how long we've been doing this, we haven't really done a lot of Spring 1s together.
Well, it's been there was a pandemic that made it awkward. And like I said, you've gotten Spring Security to the point where my P brain can keep all the concepts in my head, and it just flows out naturally now. I can see everything in my head when I type it, and that's what you want. That's like expressive security, It needs to map to a mental model which I can develop. And you got rid of what's the story on the authorization? Not the author, the vetoing. There's a whole hierarchy of vetoing.
Oh yeah. So we're kind of transitioning Spring Security's authorization model. Beforehand, there was an access decision manager.
That whole thing. What is that?
Well, back I like to call it BR, before Rob.
By the way, I just realized. Yes, before Rob, there was a guy named Ben Alex, lovely fellow. Yes. He when he talked about Spring Roo, which he also founded, he was the creator of Spring Security, the very first one. Then he went off to do Spring Roo back in 2008-ish.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. And he did a keynote for a Google show, maybe? I don't know. And he talked about how he talked about how the commensurate sort of the stanzas of configuration required to get any Spring Security application working in XML has gone from that to this, right? And now here you and I are talking about Java, and it's for a common case stuff, it's just a method on a builder. Oh, so good.
Yeah, no, it is great. But yeah, back in the day, we used to have an access decision manager, and there was various implementations. But the one that was typically used was the consensus based, everything had to agree. And what was agreeing? It was the voters. So there were these voters that basically looked very similar to the Access Decision Manager API, and they would return an integer for if they were abstaining or if they were granting or denying, and so you had quite the hierarchy, and then even inside the voters themselves, you had quite a bit of implementation. So we had a role-based voter, and then one that supported a role hierarchy, and then The more useful ones ended up being things like the web expression voter, and they basically would take in an expression from an attribute that was parsed separately from everything, and there were in order to make a change, you had lots of moving parts, and now we have just an authorization manager. So the authorization manager takes in basically a an authentication or a supplier of authentication. So in case it's like a permit all, we don't have to actually resolve the authentication. And then it takes in some type of object, and it's usually like a contextual object. So HTTP servlet request, for example, a method invocation, etc. And so now it's if you want to change something, it's just in that one spot. And we have like a role-based authorization manager that works for both web and method security because it doesn't care what's passed into it. It's agnostic to whatever the anything other than the authentication.
So,
But then, go ahead.
so let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. I need to like make sure I'm like understanding this. Hold on. You've got a thing that gives you you can do like the permit all thing. Is that so that you do avoid issuing a call to a SQL database if the authentication repository is backed by a SQL database or something like that?
Yes. So you're asking about the delayed lookup of the authentication for permit all, and that's actually a really great question because what it is exactly what you're saying. Is typically in a web application, you're going to have like an HTTP session, and that HTTP session is probably backed by some data store such as Redis or MySQL or whatever it happens to be persisted in. Could be in memory as well, but hopefully you've offloaded that into Spring Session,
Right.
another project which I'm quite fond of.
Me too.
And the thing is like if someone wants to have Spring Security and they want to grant access to say like CSS, JavaScript, images, etc., they don't necessarily want for every one of those requests the session to be hit in looked up in the database. But the API is previously, before Authorization Manager, required an authentication object to be passed into it. And so before we could evaluate things, the authentication was actually looked up. Now the Authorization Manager can have a supplier of the authentication, and that can basically be a supplier of hey, if you need to access, look it up in the database. And by the way, only do that once per request. So that's what we're doing is once per request. If someone actually uses that supplier, if someone actually resolves it, then we'll actually look it up in the database. But for requests that don't actually resolve it, it's never looked up.
But so let's say that you have multiple authorization. Is it possible to have multiple places where that authorization gets looked up or gets used?
Or that authentication is looked up multiple places?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the supplier is just like
is it memoizing?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Well done. Okay. So is the old hierarchy? Because I never used the old hierarchy, and I don't know that I should have been using it. And now I feel like is it gone, or is it just being deprecated, or what's the story there?
Well, we're still kind of playing around exactly what's happening to it, but it's already deprecated. We may be moving it into a separate jar and keeping it around for one more set of majors, or we may be removing it. We're still kind of debating exactly where that lands.
Rob, we have a big version of Spring Framework and Spring Boot coming up.
Well, that's where we're debating if it's going away or if it's sticking around one more major. And the reason for that, it really is, security is already hard. And so we really like to try to make sure that, if we do remove something, we've given the community plenty of time to update and get where they need to go. We don't want to have blockers. So yeah, and with that said, we're working with some of the open source community on ironing out some of the details on exactly how to make things work with the new authorization manager. And it's fun because one like one of the things that people are looking for is if you look at the web request, you have like this has role, has authority, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're creating a factory so that those can be swapped out. So why would you do that? Well, maybe not all. Maybe you're in order to do has authorization has authority. You need to call like a backend service. You don't actually have all the authorities on the authentication object,
Right.
and you want to keep using the existing APIs because it provides a nice DSL. You don't want to pass in your own custom authorization manager. You want to use the same DSL, and so this factory will swap out the authorization manager used behind the scenes, so you can continue using the same DSL, but
Yeah.
like some infrastructure team could provide a replacement for that just by providing this factory API.
Is the idea that that would be backed by some other context, some other persistence or something, or?
Well, it would be like potentially a REST API, or it could be delegated to, one of those, one of like the various existing APIs for managing your users. So OPA is an example. So like you can basically delegate to something like that. I mean, there's various ones out there, but they're all kind of like they would all be pluggable basically at that point.
That's Open Policy Agent. I had to remember. I remember what you're talking about. I just forgot the acronym.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool, and that's a whole other API. That's a network call, but you can get authorization decisions made from that infrastructure.
Exactly.
Neat. Oh, okay, that's super cool. I mean, that is really,
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's fun that it's coming from such a simple enhancement. We're working through some of the details now, but there's a contributor who you might recognize, Steve. No last name needed.
Yeah. Okay.
From the Spring Security team, who has since moved on, but still uses Spring Security.
Such a nice person.
Yes. So yeah.
So okay, that's like that stuff. I don't feel bad now for having missed out on that whole hierarchy because I never understood what it was for and it never made sense. And also, when you look at the UML diagram or whatever of all the different types, you're like, there's Spring Security. You've got the Authentication Manager. Where's this symmetrical Authorization Manager? It wasn't there. It was just this, I got Authentication Manager, and then that turns into like things that manage user detail services and all that stuff. Down in the tree. But I never understood the other leg of it. Okay, that's nice. Is that a new? I guess that's partly a new thing. What else are we looking at in the new Spring? What is that now? Spring Security 7? No.
Spring Security 7. Yeah, it's the same as Framework. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. So another thing we've added was integration with the new the interface-based REST clients with our OAuth support. So that's another pretty cool feature.
So you can instead of having an interceptor on the REST client, you can have it just configured on the REST client that's used to then build the interface client.
Yeah. So it's really nice because you basically annotate your interface-based client with some annotations, and then Spring Security sees those and properly adds the access token as needed, and then will also add the it will also not add it if it doesn't see those annotations. So you just enable it, and then like adds the necessary access token for the clients that are annotated and the ones that are not. And the reason why I bring that up is you don't have to have like a separate instance of your client's REST client for every interface,
right?
Or for every method for that matter, because each method might have a different access token,
right.
And so like some people like back in the day, like that's how a lot of people would do it, is they'd like say, oh, I want I want the default header for OAuth to include this access token. And that was kind of barbaric because then you'd have like thousands of instances of these clients. Yeah.
So does that mean, because I just did a video on the interface client stuff and I didn't really dive into the security machinery there, but you've got the REST client customizer thing where you can like configure groups. Is that part of what you're talking about or no?
Yeah. So Spring Security implements that interface and configures basically. It ignores the group because it doesn't need to worry about the groups. It just applies to everything. And what it's doing is it's adding an interceptor to the client interface implementation.
Right.
And when that method gets invoked, Spring Framework passes some metadata, including the class that's being invoked, and the method name and the arguments and so on and so forth. And Spring Security uses that information to see if there's an annotation telling it to include the access token. And so that's how it can turn on and off dynamically.
And this is so for background for people listening, the interface client is basically you have an interface, you annotate it with some methods. The methods get annotated with get exchange or put exchange, not get mapping and put mapping. That allows Spring to create a implementation based on the interface type that when you inject it, you can call methods and it'll result in a network call being made over to REST or RSocket or whatever. And now there's a thing where it's just automatically factoried by component scanning, basically, in Spring Framework 7. And what you're saying is now, taking that a step further, I can have, would this be like a token relay OAuth client scenario? Like I would have a client in an app that's already been authenticated, and I can have a declarative interface client making a downstream call to a resource server, or what is?
So
this is be resource to resource as well.
So the fun thing is if you've used the web client or the REST client integration within Spring Security, it's literally using that behind the scenes. All it's doing, the existing REST client and web client integration, all it's doing is adding, if you remember using REST client or web client, you can set an attribute, and that attribute is like a client ID. And that client ID is like integrates with the client registrations within Spring Security. So like a GitHub or a Google or whatever. And it looks that up and it says, okay, where do I need to get an access token? And that registration also contains some scopes, like what scopes do I need, et cetera. And so by specifying that identifier, web client or REST client would then do all that negotiation for you. And if the access token was about to expire, it'd refresh it, and et cetera, et cetera. But now all you're doing is specifying that same identifier using an annotation.
Right.
And so all this new interceptor does is it looks at the annotation, sees the ID, and it sets the attribute for you on the client, the REST client or the web client. So it's not really actually doing much.
But in this case, that only works if the app in which that interface exists is configured as a OAuth client, right? You have the configuration for the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I need the client registration. Yeah.
So it's not like and I couldn't do it in just a stock standard resource server because it might result in a redirect to the auth server, and that won't work in a backend API to another backend API.
I mean, you would have to have it fail most likely if the access token was no longer valid. But you could. I mean, you could potentially do it using like a client credentials, right? The access token fails, and you could register a client credentials with the resource server. So, I mean, in the same ways that you could resolve an access token before, you can now do it now because it's literally just setting that request attribute or the request attribute being the client ID.
Right.
And all the other mechanics are the exact same as before.
So if it was if I had an interface client, let's say I have the OAuth client here, I have a request that goes to a resource server, and then in the resource server, I need to make another authenticated call to yet another resource server. As long as I had the first token from the OAuth client, would that get propagated all the way down to the third thing?
It does not. It does not attempt to propagate the access token that's in the request downstream.
Okay.
It does not try to do that.
Not like a relay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on your configuration, honestly, because there is a way to resolve the client ID from the principal.
Right.
So, and then at that point, it would basically propagate it. So you can do that, but it's not going to happen out of the box unless you configure REST client to look at the principal for the access token.
Okay, and obviously subject to what you just said before, which is if that token is suddenly invalid.
Yeah.
Then of course it'll fail.
And the other thing that's kind of cool too is like Spring Security allows you to refresh it proactively. So like one of the things that, can be problematic is like, oh, this is going to expire in like 30 seconds. Well, there's clock sync issues and, like depends on how far downstream you're going. And like it might, hopefully everything happens faster than 30 seconds. But if you're hitting a batch job or something, it might not, so you don't know, but you can configure like, oh, if it's about to expire in the next 10 minutes, go ahead and refresh it proactively.
Right.
So those are things that you can configure Spring Security to do just automatically for you behind the scenes.
And a good thing too, by the way, because small lease lifetimes for the tokens, that's good security practice, but it's also a pain in the butt to manage. So I'd rather Spring Security get it for me.
Certainly.
Oh, that's super cool. This stuff is like, it's the final frontier. If you make your code secure, you can go to production. That's the last thing. It's the most important thing. You can't go secure. No, you can go to production. Without security, you're just still in development. There's a real thing there. What else is there? I mean, this is a huge release. Are you taking part of the modularization effort in boot for the security auto configurations and things like that?
Yeah, I haven't really touched that on my side, but portfolio-wide, obviously REST client, the new integrations that we just talked about is kind of a portfolio-wide initiative. But another one is like the nullability. Yes. You probably looked at that. So we've applied the nullability annotations. And for those that aren't aware, nullability annotations it's kind of adding like a nullable type to the Java language using annotations that you get in Kotlin out of the box, right?
Right.
And, I talked to a lot of people and they're like, oh, so you're just avoiding doing nulls. So why don't we just do optional everywhere? And we've, optional, it has its place, but, at the same time, it's also, it can add a lot of overhead to garbage collection and stuff like that. And so it's not really about avoiding returning null values. It's more about informing a user if they need to do a null check in a way that the compiler can validate.
Right.
Right.
Well,
and I know you know this. I know you know this.
Yeah.
For our listeners.
No. You'd be surprised. I know very little. But it's not. So it's not Java the compiler. It's a build plugin that we furnish.
Yeah.
Actually, JSpecify.
So JSpecify, it integrates with the compiler, right?
Right.
It's an integration with the compiler. Yeah.
Okay, but is it like an annotation processor, or what is that?
So it is using. Let's see. JSpecify uses. I can't remember the whole gauntlet. Let's see. JSpecify uses.
It's not like Lombok though. It's not like a full compiler.
It's not Lombok. It's let's see. Start here. It's using. I'm trying to remember. It's another. I'm trying to remember what it's using behind the scenes.
Oh well,
it's been a minute, but it's basically using a plugin that's like more broadly. It's like to find bugs, and it was done by which group was it? I can't even remember. But it's basically like a thing to look for bugs in various aspects of your Java code, and then it integrates into like an official API within the compiler. So it like gets a hook as the compiler is being invoked.
Nice. That's super cool. Okay, well that's as long as it's a standard.
It's quite the standard of standards of standards. I don't know.
That project is an industry-wide consortium sort of collaborators that have worked to standardize, de facto standardize, I should say, what it means for control flow to be nullable or not, to be impacted by nullability or not. And
Right.
your tools, build Maven and Gradle, IntelliJ, your and your IDE and your Spring code base and all these, and then Kotlin will also respect these annotations as well. So if you have nullability metadata
Yes.
in your Java code and you use those types from Kotlin,
Yep.
they will appear as nullable or not nullable in the Kotlin compiler. Like,
Yep.
it's a whole bunch of people that have had to agree on this very entrenched, pervasive thing that's all around the code base.
Yes, exactly. And you're right. If you're writing in Kotlin, then Kotlin will notice those annotations as well. And so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess it's pretty cool. Oh, so I've remembered the dots to put it together.
Yes.
So it uses null away, and null away is a hook into error prone. Can I say that? I don't know if I can say that word. That's kind of hard to say. Error prone. It's prone to errors when you try to state it. And error prone is basically just using a compiler, like an API within the compiler to do the checks that it needs to do.
Nice. Love it when a plan comes together.
Yes.
That's super cool. And so I know that all the projects across the portfolio are sort of working on this, so you will get feedback at the compiler.
Yes.
I gotta wonder if there's any places in the code bases across the portfolio where because again, these projects, some of them are like 20 years old, right? I mean, Spring Security is probably getting up there.
Yeah.
It's 20 years old. Are there any cases where that insight into the control flow of the program and nullability therein has revealed to us semantics that we didn't necessarily understand or have clear in our head before?
Yeah, I'm glad you've asked that, Josh, because we did really discover that the semantics around a user's password were not super well defined, and in large part because of the evolution of the code base. So originally, when Spring Security was written, passwords were kind of required on a user details object. And you can actually see in these versions, when you construct it, it requires the password to be non-null and non-empty. So the constructor validated these things. But the thing that was strange is that if you called get password on this immutable object, the password, I say immutable, I mean there's no setter for it. It wasn't quite immutable.
Right.
If you called get password on it, it could be null. And the reason for that is the user also implemented a thing called credential container. And credential container allows you to clear out the credentials. And why is that? Well, what happened, people realized, is that these users were in memory and they had the passwords on the user object. And if a memory dump happened, then the password could be seen. And so after you authenticated, it would clear out the password on that user. Now, of course, we have much better ways of doing this by storing our passwords in one-way adaptive functions using like bcrypt and stuff.
Right.
But back when that feature was first added, it was very concerned about a plain text password because they were super common, being stored on the user object, and so it got cleared out. So the interesting part of that is like the password, when it was created was non-null and non-empty, but later on it could be null. And so parts of the code kind of assumed that the password would not be null.
Yeah.
And I say that because like you look at a password encoder. Well, the password encoder, it checks to see if the password is valid, right? Well, it assumed the password was non-null, and it would just throw like an illegal argument exception if the password was null, typically. But the thing is it's actually perfectly valid for a password to be null these days because A, it could be cleared out. B, we also have non-password ways of authenticating these days, like
lots of them,
like passkeys, one-time tokens, etc. And so that was like another thing that Daniel and I were talking about it. It's like, oh, it's kind of weird that we don't really have a way to represent a user for these, these passkeys scenarios, unless we also create them a password.
Right.
And so that's also kind of allowed us to clean up the semantics around, if you're using passkeys, I no longer need to have a user with a password, using the default APIs.
Oh, that's so good.
So I could enroll someone with a passkey and only a passkey, no password.
Oh, so I could like log in. I could have because you have to do the WebAuthn register screen,
Yeah. Yep.
and that in turn requires authentication through some other means. And the only other means that you've got right now are username and password, form login, which requires username and password, and one-time token, which one assumes there's a password, but you don't have to provide it.
But I guess what I'm saying is, at time of account creation, a user could register the passkey with that user without providing another way to authenticate the user.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, sign me up. Okay.
Yeah, but we don't provide a way to do that because we don't provide account creation pages. So that would be provided by the users of Spring Security.
So can I create a user details? Is there like a user dot without password builder method?
Yeah, it'd be just with a default password encoder, basically. And now the password encoder allows you to have a null password, which would result in a null password again.
And I don't have to specify dot password on the user.
Yeah, correct. Because there's multiple ways of doing user without a password on the builder itself.
Yeah.
And there's also the constructor, but you can, the easiest way is you have like user.builder, and that, has nothing on it. And then there's also, I think those are the two. So you do with default password encoder, but if you're not providing one, you don't really need to do that. You can also do with username is another shortcut one.
Right.
But you can, of course, use there's no shortcut one for a password. And if you don't provide a password on the builder, it allows you to have a null password now.
Is there a way to, I know I can do user dot with user details, provide a clone, like I can provide a target that I want to clone.
Yes.
And then can I null out the password on the new clone?
Can you what?
Null out the password? Like I want to clone everything from that, but I want the password to be null.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Super cool. Okay. I mean, this is huge. I mean, this kind of stuff just makes quality of life a lot better. Anything else you can tell us about the anything that you're hoping to land for that may or may not arrive that you can tell us without having to kill us?
Yeah. Do we need legal disclaimers for this thing? Like, is that a thing?
I don't know. But don't tell me. It's fine.
Sign here.
Yeah.
No. So the other one that we're really working hard on is multi-factor authentication.
No guarantees that it'll arrive ever.
No guarantee. Yeah. I've been thinking about this for years, honestly, and I really think it is close. Multi-factor authentication.
This is not the passkey stuff, which is also kind of MFA, right? Like,
well, yeah, that's actually how I finally decided to make this move forward, because in order to do multi-factor authentication, you need two aspects, right? You need a second factor to authenticate the user, but you also need the hooks in authorization to require the user to authenticate twice. And so trying to split that up was quite the challenge, because it was a huge endeavor. And so what we released recently were those other factors, but they don't actually have to be a second factor. Right now, we just use it as a single factor. So passkeys could be the only factor that you use to authenticate, and it works just fine, right? And so we were able to do those the authentication bits first, and now what we're doing is we're going to be able to hook in those same bits into the authorization layer to require the user to do multiple things: type a password, send a, and then like for certain things, maybe do a passkey or do a one-time token. We could even do things like, have you authenticated recently? Like if you logged in a week ago and you have long-lived sessions that are stored in Redis, you might not want the user to be able to change the password, right? And so like if they go to the password page, maybe they have to have re-authenticated within the last 5 minutes. So you could do something like that. Or maybe then you need a passkey, right? And the cool thing is like right now when you declare these rules, we'll be able to do that using granted authorities. So granted authority, a lot of people say, what's the difference between a granted authority and a role? And what's and the difference really is if you look at it, we already have the notion of roles. We also have the notion of scopes within within OAuth tokens, right? But now we can add a new type of granted authority that's called like a multi-factor. And the difference between a multi-factor is it will granted authority is you'll have a mapping of how to, if that is not provided, how to basically resolve that factor without saying access denied. Because right now, if you authenticate and authorization is denied, it basically says, well, you're already authenticated, so access denied handler. But if you now that's the other bit that's been long time coming that I actually didn't talk about beforehand. Authorization manager returns a rich object. And so we've been thinking about this for years. Authorization manager's rich object can provide why authorization failed. Multi-factor authentication is required. And so when it fails, the handler can use that information to prompt the user to provide additional authentication. So this has been like a long time coming. We've been putting the bits in place for a long time now.
And wouldn't it be this? So wait, if you've got multiple factors, at some point, all three of them, or like all the factors, need to be combined effectively, and at that point, you would need something to vote on the access and make a decision there. An access decision.
Authorization manager. Authorization manager can do that.
Okay, you don't need you still don't need the hierarchy. Okay.
No hierarchy. No hierarchy.
No access decision. Voters and all that stuff. Okay, good.
I mean, you look at it like the thing that's that I like about the Authorization Manager API, and I'm obviously biased because it was of my own doing.
Sure, I'm biased too. Then
at least a very large influence. Honestly, I say that, and did I even come up with that API? I think I came up with the API, but I might not have even written it. I might have documented it in a issue, and someone else did it. I'm not actually even sure.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, no, it was done by a contributor. Well, I want to give credit where credit is due. So that was implemented by our community.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the super cool part about it. And honestly, the party that the Spring Security engineer that helped oversee that was Josh Cummings.
The one and only.
So Authorization Manager was a long time coming, but Josh Cummings was the one that helped actually get it from the issue tracker and my brain into production code. So thank you to Josh Cummings.
So good. This is going to be such a great release. I can't wait for, what is that? October? Spring Security. Spring Boot comes out in November. Will this come out in the weeks
it'll
before?
Be in November. It'll be in November. Yeah, yeah. So do you know about the release train? Do we talk about that publicly much? It exists. I think we can talk about it.
I'm not sure. Whatever.
We can talk about it. I know we can. I've validated this. So the release train, Spring Security is always the third Monday of that release month.
Yes.
Yeah. So the third Monday of the release train, and people have probably picked up on this pattern if they follow closely. But honestly, I think a blog is long overdue, but I haven't had time to do it because we've been doing this release train.
Overdue.
Long. Oh, you know what that means? You have been voluntold. to write this blog.
Yeah.
Long overdue.
I should
overdue. Long. Implement it.
If I had a column in the magazine, which we don't have, but if I had a magazine and I had a column, it'd be called Long Overdue.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Oh, so bad, but so good. Okay, so 3rd of November, third Monday of November, and then shortly thereafter, one imagines, because the 4th Monday. Wait, isn't that Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it is usually around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so you're going to be releasing Spring Security right before Thanksgiving, and then Spring Boot drops on Thanksgiving historically, which is not annoying. And then,
well, it's fortunate that we have a team that is like across multiple regions.
The Atlantic, right?
Yeah. So hopefully they don't also have a day off that day.
No. But so that'll be. So the point is, spring. You've got precious few months, people, to get the bits, try it out, kick the tires. Like it's coming, right? We'll be chomping on turkey in no time here in the States, and when that happens, this stuff will be GA. So let us know. Here.
And you will be thankful for it because it's Thanksgiving.
I'm thankful all year, but Thanksgiving I eat and I'm thankful. Just to throw out a question, maybe for later, but curious about some alpha you want to drop maybe on security things coming for Spring AI. I think didn't Daniel and I cover some of that? Daniel
I would imagine so. Daniel has been doing quite a bit around that. Yeah.
Did I? I'm not even sure if we did or not. I think we did. I feel like I had a conversation with him recently. Let me try that again. I feel like we had a conversation on air. That's different from the status quo. Wait, I don't think we did. Did we?
Maybe you should.
No, we did. We did it. We had one 2 months ago. Go back and watch our live stream from 2 months ago on this channel. But yeah, there's all sorts of cool stuff there, and you can definitely expect to hear some more about that in the weeks and months ahead. A lot of it is to do with, it's coincident with the sort of work going on in MCP land. Yeah. And that's not yet fully fleshed out over there, so it's not fully fleshed out here.
Yeah, it's definitely early support there because you can't have finalized support for something that's still moving target. So
right. And May 20, 2025, Daniel did a blog on, like, because back then it wasn't clear what the spec would look like. It was even less clear. So he did a blog, was it May 20th or May 22nd? We did Spring AI on the 22nd, I think, right? So it must have been spring. He did a blog on sort of like, if the spec goes this way, what would that look like? And you can, here, I'll just post a link to his blogs. That is a good place to go if you want resources on this kind of stuff. Okay. There. Just go see all of his stuff. He's got some good content in the last few months about this. He did a blog back in April saying, here's what it kind of looks like, and then here's an implementation of it. And I'm sure as this stuff becomes more fleshed out, he'll speak more to that. But yeah, that whole space is super interesting. Again, it's not production worthy unless it's secure, and so AI is to the extent that we have security in Spring. Yes, of course you can use it, but one wonders about the MCP particular story. Okay. Well, thanks, Rob. I think this has been fun. Like we can't give away everything. Come see our talk at Spring One. Is there going to be? Do we know if there's a live stream or not? I don't know. Nobody tells me anything.
I think it's going to be recorded. I think it'll be recorded, but I don't think it'll be live.
Okay. Well, either way, the best place you can be is in the room with us, because how else will you ask questions and get Rob to help you with your code? Because I certainly won't be able to. I wouldn't know what I'm doing, but yeah, ask Rob for help on your code, and just come to the session. And again, there's nothing more fun than security in an afternoon. Come on, it'll be great. Just like this end of day live stream we just did, Spring One, hanging out with the security people.
Yeah, super fun.
Rob, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you at Spring One.
Spring1.io. Yeah, go register. Bye-bye.